This is an introduction of a series of sermons to be given by the Native American Church of the Ghost Dancers. The Church of the Ghost Dancers is intent upon resurrecting the lost teachings of Native American ancestors that have been repressed for the last 500 years by Western European colonialism. One of the principal differences between Western European philosophy, postmodernist philosophy, and primordial tradition from the Native American standpoint is that there is an extra-mundane world that is the foundation behind physical reality. That mankind, to a large extent, in the scientific reductionist world is trapped in this illusion of the five senses, of the five-sense world, and he's been led to believe through the ego that this is the sum total of physical reality, when in truth it is only a small portion of the true reality of the universe, the universal philosophy. Now, one of the principal ways, besides the five senses, that mankind in the Western European scientific reductionist tradition conforms this information is through language. Language is very important. As ritual and oral traditionalists from these primordial sources, we principally do our rituals in the ancient language of Native America. The English language, which these sermons are going to principally be given in, is because English is a good language for delivering information as a lingua franca, as a universal language, because a lot of people speak it, and also it has a huge vocabulary. I enjoy speaking English for what it is. I also enjoy speaking my own native tongue, which is Choctaw, and I'll be using some of the Choctaw phrases and words to explain a lot of these concepts, because conceptually there are nuances in the Choctaw phrases that are very different from the English phraseology. So when you're using the English language, it's very good for dealing with the three-dimensional sense illusionary reality, as I call it. Whereas the ritual traditions are given in the ancient Native American tongues. Most ritual traditions are oral, and they use these ancient linguistic phraseologies and languages because they conform and reality in nuances that you cannot conceive in these postmodernist languages that have been constructed to deal with the physical sense material world. Now, English is a very eclectic language. It has probably the widest vocabulary of any language, because the British Isles were invaded by a series of people. They had the Gaelic peoples, and the Pictish, Gaelic, Celtic peoples were sort of the indigenous people. They were later invaded by the Romans, which brought a Latin language to the British Isles, and they were invaded by the Germanics, the Anglo-Saxons. Then they became a colonial empire, and they went all over the world, and they gathered phrases and vocabulary from all different parts of the world. So it has a huge vocabulary. What the problem with it is it's very weak in inflection. While the verbs in English have past, have tense and mood, they tend to be pretty much devoid of aspect. Whereas the ancient languages tend to be very deep in inflection, and their verbs are very deep in aspect. For example, Choctaw has 10 different aspects to the verb. It also, of course, has mood, and it has tense. But it also has these aspects that give these nuances that can conceive and conform and allow entree into these extra-mundane sources. There are many other ways we do it. We do it with ritual. We do it with assistance from the four-legged, the winged, and the plant world. And we also do it with conforming our world to the heavenly sources and the timing of how these heavenly bodies and heavenly sources interact with our daily lives and our daily energy. Okay, cut.